Hi, and welcome to another Tech Talk session here with Microsoft. Thanks everybody for joining. We have a topic here that comes up quite often here at Microsoft. It's basically called data synchronization for large scale projects, specifically for VFP. As I normally do in these conversations, introduce myself. I'm Joe Raffinelli. I'm a director of technical solutions here at Microsoft. We are a customized software development shop. We specialize in migration services. We convert old to new. So we pretty much hang our hat on that every time we talk here. Super excited to be here with Imran. You've seen him a bunch of times. He is our VP of Migration Services, been with us many years. Also with Nele, he's our Senior Tech Manager. We're going to discuss this important topic. And again, why we think it's important, because it comes up a lot with a lot of our clients, and we try and rectify the problem every single time. Before I let these guys speak, as usual, what we'll do is I have my questions that I'm going to ask my guys, and then at the end, I'm going to ask folks via the chat to give me your questions. So it'll be real-time responses. So Emran, why don't we start with you? You can introduce again and go ahead and do your thing. Thank you, sir.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today's session. You know me. I think Joe also introduced you that I'm VP Migrations here, and we do a lot of migration projects, especially the Visual Fox Pro migrations. When we talk about this topic today, the database synchronization for the large-scale projects, we are going in very detail. So in our previous tech talks, we already have discussed different topics on database migration. Today's topic is data synchronization between VFP and the new database like SQL Server. It requires a lot technical, detailed discussion because it relates to the planning and very successful delivery of the project. So today we'll discuss this topic in detail.
So what I normally do is ask the easiest question, right? So why don't we just tell folks what's data synchronization and why is it essential? We'll start there. Imran, you froze?
Is the process of ensuring that two databases, in our case, legacy Visual Fox Pro database, and the new database, which can be SQL Server in 90% of our cases, contain the same data.
Yeah, I think he's breaking up there. Wait for him to join back in.
Yeah, I think he's dropping off. So let me answer you, Joe.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the simple terms, the database syncing is the process of ensuring the two databases. Like in our case, the one is the legacy VFP. Yeah, that is the one we are planning to migrate on to, and the other will be the new database for the legacy system, which will be the SQL one. So most of the we handle with SQL or Oracle or MySQL, but most of the client looks for SQL base as they are going in the Microsoft platform. Okay, so it contains some certain data points which we need to convert into that picture. So this becomes very crucial in a large scale migration projects where the transition from the VFP to SQL is done in phases over an extended period. Typically, in a smaller migration that are completed in less than a year, don't require syncing because the entire application is moved to production at once and the data is migrated during the final cutoff. However, when dealing with the larger applications with multiple modules, the migration process might take over a year. So in such cases, the clients often wants to roll out different parts of the new system gradually. So it is not like one at a time. It will be like one at a time, module wise module kind of thing. So this is where the database syncing becomes necessary, ensuring that the legacy and the new system will operate with the same data during the transition.
Yeah, that's definitely important. We definitely at all times so folks can continue their work as they're doing the migration. Okay, so I'm sure there's different scenarios for database syncing depending on the project. Why don't we just kind of go through some of the different scenarios?
Yes, Joe. There are different scenarios based on the project requirement. And let me pull up my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen. So some projects require one complete delivery. Some requires phase by phase production approach. So let's see what these scenarios are. The first two ones are very common: partial synchronization, which requires the data to be synced from VFP to SQL or SQL to VFP. In these scenarios, what objective is basically, as we are migrating the modules, we put those modules and release those modules in production, but still those modules are using the VFP tables which are not migrated yet, or the VFP application is using a table in VFP which has been migrated to SQL Server, so they still need to access those. So in those cases, we implement the partial synchronization, not the complete database, all the tables, few of those tables, select tables basically. Then it comes to the full synchronization. In these cases, it's again a complex kind of a scenario. We sync both tables from VFP to SQL Server to VFP. And here, it requires basically, because there's a lot of tables that are using the same data, and the application is accessing the same data from both the databases, and that's how it requires the complete migration. We will discuss their use cases in a bit. Um, then it comes to some not common scenarios like data rollback or recovery. It requires to integrate it. You want to keep your SQL Server data as same as VFP, but the SQL database is not in production, but there will be like 2 years of development. We want to keep the SQL Server up to date with the VFP data. And this is coming. This will happen instantly as soon the data received in the VFP. It is replicated to SQL Server. Then it comes to another scenario, which is the batch updates or schedule. Sometimes it requires to update the SQL Server in the batch mode or on some schedule, and it also depends on the project requirements. Not common scenario, but it depends on the. We have faced this kind of an use case in the past where there are processes which are running in the newer applications, and that how we need to synchronize the data like once in a day or in a week's time. So these are some common use cases. Now we want to look into more details. I want Nele to discuss these scenarios in detail.
So, as we mentioned, there are three cases here. The first one will be the one-way syncing. It can be from either from the VFP to SQL or the SQL to VFP. So in this case, it is like the database will be transitioned into the application operations. So based on the different operations, the data should be synced to the other databases. So in some cases, in one of the client, so what they want is they want to move the application to the new application to talk to the SQL, and the existing application is still using the VFP. So whenever we are making the changes on the SQL, so we have a sync mechanism. So whenever insert or update or delete any operation happens, it will sync to that equivalent Foxborough database. So that when they use the old application for some of the modules, they can still check the VFP DB, and the VFP DB will synced with the SQL one, and it was working on that the right. In some cases, they'll be working on the VFP DB and they want to sync to the SQL one to make the .NET application to be implemented and referred on that. So when they make the changes from the legacy application, do some operation in the VFP, we have a sync operation happening, and that will update the SQL so that the new system will read from the updated SQL server and have the data synced over there. So this is one case. And let's move on to the next case. Can we
So
move to the
yet to
next slide?
move, yet to move.
Yeah. I think some connection issues there. So, uh,
Next one's probably two-way sync,
let
right?
me, yeah, next is like the two-way syncing. So in the two-way syncing, it will be like we have a sync log in VFP and SQL. So whenever the data changes is happening, it will update to the both the database at the same time. So it will be like I'm making some changes in the VFP. At the same time, it will be synced to the SQL. And when there are some changes in the SQL is happening, that will trigger to the VFP. So we have our own a DB sync tool which Microsoft created its own because it is required for a particular client specific. And what that tool will do is it will listen to the data changes, and whenever data changes happens, it will trigger to the other database automatically. So it will be a in a live basis. It will sync to the both the databases together. The third scenario will be like it's a parallel database. So in a parallel database, the case is like the application should be talking to both the databases. For example, when you go in a bigger migration, okay, so what one of the client what they want is they want to move a module by module, so that one set of module will talk to the new database, but the other modules still talk to the old VFP databases. So what they want is when we are migrating one particular module, that module will talk to the SQL DB, as well as it has to update in the Foxpro DB as well, because from the legacy application, when they are accessing the data, that data may be used in some other modules. So it has to be synced with that database as well. So we created a DLL, the custom DLL named as Microsoft Magic DLL. What that DLL will do is it will automatically push the data to both talk to the VFP DB as well as the SQL DB. So whenever a module is synced with one database, it will be still talking to the data application still talk to the VFP DB and do the operations over there. So these are the three different use cases which we implemented for our different clients.
Yeah, thanks for walking us through that. I know we were having some technical difficulties, so we apologize to the folks trying to follow along there. Um, I know that's something that's very important to our clients. I know we put our heads together to make sure the data is working, appropriately, so the folks can actually move forward with with the conversion, and the clients can move forward with their daily operations. So I know how important that is. Um, what are the considerations for consider? We have a question on here. What are the considerations for synchronization? Maybe Imran can answer that question.
Yes, there are some technical issue came up. I hope you can hear me.
We
Right.
hear you fine.
Yeah. So right. So the key considerations are data integrity, volume, and handling the conflicts is very important. When we talk about data integrity, ensure that both the databases maintain identical data, even the differences can be the data structure and some constraints like primary keys and auto-generated IDs. So this is the main thing that we need to keep considered, the data integrity. Then the volume, the synchronization techniques must be account for the data volumes, ensures that the large scale transfers do not impact system performance. Conflicts is again the thing that requires to be handled as we are synchronizing. When we talk about conflict, it means handling the scenarios where the same data has been modified in the both databases, and then how to resolve it. And it depends on project to project. There are some key rules for it, but mainly it depends on the project because two different applications accessing the same table and doing the updates. Maybe two different applications are accessing the same record in one database or two different databases. So we have, the two updated copies of the same record there. So that those requires to handle those kind of conflicts.
Sounds like a lot there. Sounds like very manual. Are there any specific tools that perform this type of synchronization?
Yes. So there are several tools available for the data replications. So SQL Server (SSIS), you might have heard about that. So SSIS is a popular tool that can facilitate this process. But in Microsoft, based on the client's different kind of requirements, as we are working on the legacy migrations, so we have built our own solutions. So what we will be doing at first is we have our data morph tool, which will migrate the VFP database to the SQL before start doing in the synchronization, because we want to do for the legacy as well as the new migrated DB. So that is the first step we'll be doing it on. And after that, we have a multiple tools or the libraries we created, as I mentioned. So we have our own data syncing scripts, which can be used for syncing from one DB to the other one. And again, we have the magic DLL, which can help to communicate to both the databases and make sure that both are getting synced together at a particular point of time.
It sounds like the tools are going to help, right? But what the challenge is, there's never an easy button, as you guys know, in technology. What are some of the challenges that we face with these tools?
Yes, you are right. So synchronization comes with its share of challenges. So some of the major issues what we faced when we do this for our customers, and we have a solutions towards that. So one of the main case will be like the missed record replication. So sometimes due to technical glitches, like how you are seeing in the technology world, you can get any kind of technical glitches at any point of time. So whenever any technical glitches happens, so the records might not get replicated from one database to the other, which can cause some data inconsistencies. The other problem could be on the auto-generated primary keys. So in VFP, the primary keys might be generated differently than in the SQL Server, which can lead to in syncing the data between the two databases. The other challenge will be on the user ID mismatches, like for the audit trail purposes. So user ID in the legacy system might not align with the new system. So as it is having a different IDPK and here it's having different, so there we'll have a mismatch on that. The fourth one could be like on the case of data structure differences, like both are databases, but the structure of the particular attribute or the particular data type will be different. So the VFP structure is different than the SQL. So we have to match up for what is equally available. For example, some if we take a case of a numeric field or a floating field, like having a 9,2 as a data type of that, and what VFP can do is the volume is the decimal is inclusive of that of the definition of that, but in SQL it is the decimal place is extra to that. So the structure differences are there that also to be handled. So these are just few of the technical hurdles we need to overcome during the database synchronization.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Sounds so complex, and I can see why this comes up a lot, with migrations and our clients. Um, Imran, any final thoughts about how to plan for something like this for data synchronization? Looks like he's frozen again.
Okay, yeah. Let me answer that. So,
All right, go ahead.
yes. Our advice would be like to plan thoroughly. That is important. The planning is the key part, and especially for the larger projects. So, understanding the specific data synchronization needs early on can save a lot of time and headaches later in the migration. So, also we have to leverage the right tools, and having a skilled team with experience in both VFP and SQL Server is essential for a smooth transition.
That makes sense. Thank you for that. Okay, that was the questions that I had. Let's maybe open it up to the chat questions. So go ahead, see if anybody has any questions. All right, first question: data synchronization can be risky. Is it necessary? Is the first question that we're asking.
I can take it. I hope I'm here. Good question. It is not necessary, but required for large projects that span on multiple years. Just think about it. One project we develop, deliver in 6 months compared to a project that is multi-year, 2 years or 3 years. The client will not wait to go in production with the migrated modules. So in those projects only, we can plan for the data synchronization. Otherwise, it is not necessary at all.
So it's definitely just a timing thing. Okay. Okay. Another question is, thank you for that, Imran, by the way. Okay. What if the same VFP table is accessed by more than one user at a time for different operations? How can we manage the table lock? Very specific question.
Okay, let me take it
Yeah.
up.
Go ahead, Nelly.
Yeah. So by default, in VFP, if you are doing the insert or update or delete operation, the table is locked for the other users. So at the same time, only one user can access it. So this will create issues in the multi-user environment, because basically when you do a bigger application, there will be multiple users accessing at the same point of time. So, but we have a provision called the row lock facility. So what it can do is it can have a flexibility of accessing the table and do required operations without locking the entire table. So at the same time, one user can do insert or update, and other user can work on the other rows of the application. So when you do a row lock, different users are accessing the different rows, and the table will not be locked, and it can be used at the same point of time. Also, at sometimes, if both users or multiple users trying to access the same row, and at that time if the row lock happened, so the other alternative solution is to we have to try a retry mechanism. So we have to retry after 5 seconds or 10 seconds to do the operations again, so that the data will not be missed out. It will do the actual process again at the same point of time.
Okay. Very specific question to a very specific answer. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Is there other question? Okay. How do you resolve conflicts with data updated in both VFP and SQL Server? I
I
think
can answer
that's,
this question.
if you can.
This is very unlikely to happen. Right. This is very unlikely to happen in production applications. If required, in most cases, the latest entered records in either database is considered and replicated to other databases. That's how we define the policy for that.
Okay. Thank you for that. How do you ensure consistency in auto-generated keys and user IDs between the two databases? Maybe Nelly can take that one.
Yeah, okay. So during migration, so we have to map the existing primary key in the VFP to the corresponding records in SQL Server. So ensure that we have to ensure that the keys in SQL Server do not conflict with any new records created during the migration process. Also, we have to ensure that the SQL Server begins generating the keys from a value higher than the last key used in VFP. So the best approach is in most of the project is disabling the automatic key generation, and we have to insert the VFP keys into SQL Server as part of replication, so that the keys which is generated in VFP can be carried over to the SQL, so that both will be easily identifiable, easily manageable, and we can able to sync the process.
Okay. Oh, we got another question here. What are the various modes available for opening the table in VFP for synchronization? Talking about the modes here.
Okay, let me take it up this. So basically, as we already talked about the locking mechanism. So here in VFP, the table there are two modes we can able to open the table. So when you usually open the table, it will open in exclusive mode. So during that data operation. So when it is opened in that mode, it will be like only user can do the operation on that. But basically, there is another mode called shared mode, so that the multiple users can do multiple operations. So we have to be ensure that we are opening the table in a proper mode based on the requirement and based on the situation.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you, Nelly. Are there any other questions by the chat? All right, we're going to close the session. Apologies for some of the technical issues we had that we got through it. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for Nelly and Imran for your time on this we find this to be a most important topic. Again, like I said before, a lot of clients are having the same issues. It's going to help others as well, for now and for the future. If anybody would like to bring up anybody from the audience, oh, actually, what I should say is I'd like to thank for the audience for these very detailed questions. If there's any other concerns or anything else you guys want to bring up, you can go ahead and contact me here. You see my contact information. But for now, thanks everybody for your time, and have a great day. And we'll pick another topic for next month. Thank you, folks. Take care now. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you.